Hi, welcome back. In the past few videos, we've gone over functions, function configurations, function parameters, and function workflows. In the next few videos, we're going to be getting into some details like, actual function blocks, and you get to see a lot of the things that can be accomplished with the function builder. But with this video, we're going to create a function quickly just to understand how functions work, right? So this function is going to be tested using an API. I already have the API configured. The endpoint is tutorial endpoint in our Hello World API, and it's going to be running our tutorial demo function. So this function is going to be very simple logic. If given a number, if the number is greater than 10, we will multiply by 5. And if the number is less than 10, we will add by 5, right? I will return a response. Now we're going to write this function three different ways. The first way we're going to write this function is 100% no code, right? So we're not going to use any code. We're just going to use the script user interface. And we're going to chain our fragments of logic together to build the whole flow out entirely. The second way we're going to build this is a pseudo approach. We're going to use no code and we're going to mix in some low code, some code, right? So it's going to be a mixture of no code and code. And then the third way the third way that we are going to build this is a 99% code. Basically, all the core logic is going to be with code. And then we're going to use the return step to get our response. All right. So let's dive into the first approach, no code. So we're going to use an if else statement as our first step. And here we're going to say, so we expect, since this is going to be from an API, and we are actually expecting a number, we're going to be using our request body parameter. Um, we discussed parameters in the function parameter video. So if you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch it. So we expect to have a number field in our request body. All right, so I'm just going to reference the request body parameter. I'm going to map into the expected number field. And what I'm going to say here is that, hey, if it's greater than 10, and the number 10, right, then we're going to execute some logic in this if block. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to return. Just going to make this an object with a field called calculation. And this is going to be the request body with a map into the number field. At that, then we're going to multiply by the number 10. All right. And the next block, which is basically because this is a one conditional if else statement, I can just return in the next block the alternative, right? It's going to be an object, a similar looking object, calculation. And it's going to be similar logic. The only difference is that we are going to be adding 5 as opposed to multiplying by 5. It's going to be, we're going to add the number 5. Okay. And that's it. So basically, if the number is greater than 10, then we multiply by, well, 5, not 10. And if it's not greater than 10, we add by 5. I'm going to save this, deploy. I'm going to pull up Postman. So I have the number in this request is 12. So we expect it to multiply by 5. We get 60. If it's less than 10, so let's use 9. It's supposed to add by 5. So we get 14. So this works just fine. So now we're going to go into the second way we can write this function. And this is basically using a mixture or a combination of code and no code. So I can come in here and I can say, okay, I want this to be code. I can reference my parameter, a request body, number, right? So in this sequence, I'm using code to reference my number, and I'm still using my no code script expressions for the rest of the logic, right? And like if I just saved this, deployed, and pinged it, my API, everything still works as expected. And I could even take this further. I could remove all of this. Okay, it's going to remove this. I can say if my parameter dot request body dot number, if that is greater than 10. So I can just draw that logic with code. I could come over here and I could basically say something like, let's make this code. I could say parameter request body number, and I can say times 5, and just get rid of this and this, right? So here you see this is just a combination of code and no code to accomplish the exact objective. So sometimes it might be convenient to write code, sometimes not so much, and you get to pick and choose when you would like to do either or any. If I ping my API, still works fine. If I change it to 15, so 15 times 5 is 75. If I change it to 2, 2 plus 5 is 7, right? So it still works, right? The final approach is basically writing with pretty much 99% code and just returning our response, right? So for that, I'm going to delete all the steps. I'm going to convert this to a variable step. I'm just going to call this calculation. What I'm going to do here is that I'm just going to use some code. So I'm just going to say, this is a function. I'm going to call this function calc. I'm going to take a number. I'm going to say if the number is greater than 10, then we want to return the number times 5. Else, we want to return the number plus 5, right? So now functions, right? Code, in the code block, what we expect is a script expression, right? So here we've basically written a full-blown function. So to make this function a script expression that executes and returns, we will just wrap it up in a function executor, and then we could pass in our parameter. And in this case, our parameter is parameter request body number, right? And that's it. Now in the next step, I will just return, because this is the only way to return data or return a response in with functions. I'm just going to say this is going to be an object calculation, and we're going to reference our calculation variable. That's it. So in this flow, we've basically done all our computation. We've done that with code. We've basically passed in our parameter, which is the number, and what we expect is that that should be sent to the calculation, and we should get that in the response. I'm going to save this, I'm going to deploy, I'm going to ping. All right, we get 7, that is the expected response. If I say 5, then I should get 5 plus 5, which is 10. I say 25. 25 times 5, 125. All right. So using the function builder, really quick, I've shown you 3 ways of writing functions. You can write functions 100% without code. You can write functions with a combination of code and no code, right? And you can write functions with pretty much 99% code. Now, keep in mind that there are certain functions that you cannot write with code, right? Because the code part or the code module here is basically boxed into a context. The only things that are available in this code context are parameters, variables, and the moment object. So things like communicating with a database, network requests, certain things like that uh, should be done outside of a function. So you could basically have some logic, and then you can use some no code logic, and then you can return to uh, some scripted code logic. All right. In this video, we've basically gone over the different ways of writing functions. I hope you learned a lot. I'll catch you in the next video.